Welcome to Dreamy Detections. Thank you for choosing this quiet corner as your sanctuary for rest and gentle contentment. The story you are about to hear is designed to help you unwind, to let the day's thoughts soften and drift away, and to guide you toward a peaceful sleep. If you find comfort in our tale, a simple like, a subscription to the channel, or a kind comment is always deeply appreciated. Tonight, we will be visiting the serene village of Little Wisp and stepping into the warmth of the Cobblestone Cafe. Prepare to be enchanted by the sweet scent of cinnamon, the comfort of a soft armchair, and the gentle puzzle of a collection of painted teacups that seem to have a quiet life of their own. Let this world provide a soft place for your mind to land, a moment of stillness and respite, just for you. Chapter 1. The Warmth of the Cobblestone Cafe. The village of Little Wisp greeted Arthur Finch with a gentle quietude that seemed to absorb the sound of his footsteps on the worn cobblestones. Here, the air itself moved at a slower pace, carrying the sweet, earthy scent of damp soil and the distant perfume of late-blooming honeysuckle. Arthur felt the tight knot of travel in his shoulders begin to loosen with each unhurried breath, the world beyond this peaceful hollow already feeling like a faraway memory. He sought only a place of stillness, a refuge where time was measured in the slow drift of clouds and the changing angle of the sun. The lane he walked along curved gracefully, leading him towards a building that seemed to exhale warmth and welcome. This was the Cobblestone Cafe, a name painted in soft cream-colored letters on a swinging wooden sign. Its windows were made of old, beautifully imperfect glass that made the world outside look soft and wavy, like a watercolor painting. A rose bush, heavy with pale pink blossoms, climbed the timber frame around the door, its petals holding tiny droplets from the morning's soft mist. Arthur paused for a moment, simply taking in the sight, feeling an immediate sense of homecoming. He placed a hand on the cool, smooth brass of the doorknob and stepped inside, a tiny bell announcing his arrival with a single gentle chime. The interior of the cafe was a haven of soft light and comforting aromas. The air was thick with the scent of cinnamon and brewing tea, layered over the faint, pleasant smell of beeswax and old, well-loved wood. Sunlight filtered through the wavy glass, slanted across the room in wide golden beams, illuminating the lazy dance of dust motes. A few small round tables were dotted around the room, each with a simple vase holding a sprig of lavender. Arthur's gaze was drawn to the far corner, where a large armchair with soft, worn cushions sat expectantly beside a tall window, promising deep comfort and quiet contemplation. He made his way to the armchair, sinking into its depth with a contented sigh. The cushions seemed to embrace him, offering a support so complete that he felt a wave of profound relaxation wash over him. From this vantage point, he could see the whole of the cafe's main room. His attention was captured by a long, dark wooden shelf that ran along the opposite wall. Upon it stood a collection of teacups, dozens of them, each one a unique piece of art. Some were painted with delicate flowers, others with whimsical birds, and some with simple, calming geometric patterns. They were arranged in a perfect straight line, ordered by size and color, a testament to a careful, loving hand. Beatrice. Meadowsweet, the owner, Sui, moved with a quiet, unhurried grace that matched the cafe's atmosphere. She brought him a cup of chamomile tea, her smile as warm and genuine as the steam rising from the porcelain. Arthur held the cup in both hands, letting its heat seep into his palms, a simple, grounding sensation that anchored him to this peaceful moment. He sipped the tea slowly, its floral notes a gentle balm. He felt the world slow to the rhythm of the cafe, a rhythm dictated by the quiet clink of spoons, the soft murmur of conversation from another table, and the slow, steady ticking of a grandfather clock in the hall. As the afternoon light began to fade, casting long, soft shadows across the wooden floor, Arthur felt a profound sense of peace settle deep within his bones. The cafe gradually emptied, the other patrons departing with soft goodbyes and promises to return. Beatrice began her closing routine, wiping the tables with a damp cloth, the scent of lemon and lavender rising gently into the air. Arthur watched her, feeling no need to rush, simply enjoying the quiet spectacle of a space being put to rest for the night. The orderly row of teacups on their shelf seemed to stand at attention, their painted surfaces catching the last of the day's golden light. Before leaving, Arthur stood for a moment longer, looking at the shelf of teacups. Their perfect arrangement was deeply satisfying, a small point of order and beauty in a quiet room. He felt a deep gratitude for this place, for its simple comforts, and its immediate, unconditional welcome. As he stepped back out onto the cobblestone lane, the evening air cool and fresh against his skin, he carried the warmth of the cafe with him. The single lamp Beatrice had left on in the window glowed like a friendly beacon, promising the same peace would be waiting for him tomorrow. Here, everything had its own quiet time, and Arthur knew he had found his. He walked back to the small guest house where he was staying, the gentle chime of the village bell marking the hour. The sound was soft and melodic, another thread in the tranquil tapestry of Little Wisp. That night, as he lay in bed, the sensations of the cafe lingered. The feeling of the soft armchair, the warmth of the teacup, the scent of cinnamon and old wood. He drifted into a deep and dreamless sleep, his mind finally quiet, held safely in the gentle embrace of the village. Chapter 2. A Pattern of Pleasant Wonder. The next morning arrived with a soft pearly light that promised another peaceful day in Little Wisp. Arthur awoke feeling more rested than he had in a very long time, the usual morning anxieties replaced by a gentle sense of anticipation. He dressed slowly, his movements unhurried, and made his way back through the quiet lanes towards the Cobblestone Cafe. The air was crisp and clean, and the sound of bird song trickled down from the ancient trees that lined the path. The cafe's welcoming sign was already swinging gently in the breeze, and the faint, delicious scent of baking was a warm invitation. As he entered, the same gentle bell chimed its soft greeting. Beatrice was behind the counter, humming a quiet tune as she arranged freshly baked cinnamon buns on a platter. She looked up and gave him that same warm smile, a simple gesture that felt like a personal welcome. "Good morning, Arthur," she said, her voice as soft as the morning light. "The usual chamomile?" He nodded, a comfortable familiarity already settling between them. He made his way to his preferred armchair by the window, feeling the simple joy of returning to a place of comfort. He settled into the chair, the cushions feeling even more welcoming than the day before. As he waited for his tea, his eyes drifted naturally to the long wooden shelf on the wall. He blinked, a slow, curious blink. The teacups were different. Yesterday, they had been in a perfect orderly line, a neat regiment of color and size. Today, they were arranged in a beautiful swirling pattern, like the graceful curl of steam rising from a hot drink. The small floral cups formed the delicate beginning of the swirl, which widened into the larger, more robustly colored cups at the end. It was undeniably intentional, a piece of art created from the collection. Arthur felt a smile touch his lips. It was a charming, whimsical touch. He imagined Beatrice arriving in the quiet pre-dawn hours, her artistic spirit moving her to create this small, beautiful display for her patrons to enjoy. It was another layer to the cafe's unique and gentle character. When she brought his tea, he gestured towards the shelf. "The teacups look wonderful today," he said. "Such a lovely arrangement." Beatrice simply smiled, a little twinkle in her eye. "They have their own way of settling in," she replied, her voice holding a hint of playful warmth, before she turned to help another customer. He spent the rest of the morning in quiet observation, letting the life of the cafe flow around him. He watched the soft light from the window creep across the floor, highlighting the rich grain of the old wooden planks. He listened to the gentle hum of conversation, the words indistinct, but the tone always warm and friendly. A small child at a nearby table laughed, a sound like tiny bells, and Arthur found himself smiling along. There was no need to do anything, no need to be anywhere else. Being here in this moment was enough. The swirl of the teacups on the shelf seemed to echo the calm, pleasant energy of the room. His focus narrowed to the simple act of drinking his tea. He observed the way the pale golden liquid swirled in his cup as he gently stirred it, the steam rising in its own miniature dancing pattern. He felt the smooth, warm porcelain against his fingertips, the solid, reassuring weight of the mug in his hands. These small sensory details were deeply grounding, pulling his awareness away from stray thoughts and into the simple, peaceful reality of the present. Here in the Cobblestone Cafe, the world was made up of warmth, soft light, and the sweet scent of cinnamon. As the day wore on, other patrons would occasionally glance at the shelf of teacups, their faces breaking into soft, appreciative smiles. It was a shared, unspoken delight, a small point of beauty that belonged to everyone in the room. Arthur felt a connection to these strangers, a quiet camaraderie born from a shared appreciation for this simple, charming wonder. He felt himself becoming a part of the cafe's gentle rhythm, another quiet presence finding solace within its warm walls. The mystery of the teacups was a pleasant, gentle hum in the back of his mind, a delightful little puzzle that asked for nothing but to be quietly enjoyed. When it was time to leave, he once again gave the shelf a long, appreciative look. The swirling pattern was so pleasing to the eye, so full of gentle movement and life. He wondered what arrangement they would find themselves in tomorrow. This small, daily curiosity felt like a gift, a gentle thread of wonder weaving through the peaceful tapestry of his days in Little Wisp. The feeling of rest he had found yesterday was deepening, settling into something more profound, more lasting. It was the peace that comes from quiet observation and the acceptance of small, delightful wonders. Chapter 3. Shared Smiles and Cinnamon Buns. Over the next few days, Arthur's gentle routine became a source of deep comfort. Each morning he would walk the quiet lane to the Cobblestone Cafe, and each morning he would be greeted by a new and charming arrangement of the Painted Teacups. One day they formed a gentle wave, rising and falling along the length of the shelf. The next, they were arranged in the shape of a large, friendly heart, the smaller, more delicate cups forming the intricate curves. Another morning, they spelled out the word welcome in a whimsical, looping script. Each arrangement was a small, silent greeting, a daily gift of wonder. He noticed he was not the only one who appreciated the display. Other regulars, the quiet folk of Little Wisp, would enter the cafe with a soft smile and let their gaze drift immediately to the shelf. A shared, knowing glance would pass between them and Beatrice, a silent acknowledgement of the cafe's lovely little quirk. Arthur soon found himself part of this quiet circle. A simple nod, a shared smile over the rim of a teacup, was enough to convey a sense of belonging. The community here was not built on loud conversation, but on shared moments of peace and mutual appreciation for the simple, beautiful things. One afternoon, as a soft rain pattered against the wavy glass of the windows, Arthur sat with Beatrice at a small table, a plate of warm cinnamon buns between them. The scent was heavenly, a sweet cloud of comfort that filled the quiet room. The cafe was empty save for them, and the only sounds were the gentle drumming of the rain and the soft ticking of the clock. Arthur finally voiced the gentle question that had been resting in his mind. "Beatrice," he began, his voice low, "you are very creative with the teacups each morning." Beatrice looked at him, her expression warm and full of an old, gentle wisdom. She took a slow bite of her cinnamon bun before she spoke. "It's a kind thought, Arthur," she said softly, "but the teacups have been arranging themselves long before I was here. My grandmother used to say the cafe has a happy spirit, and the cups are how it shows it." She delivered this information as if it were the most natural thing in the world, a simple, accepted truth of this peaceful place. There was no pretense, only a calm statement of a long-observed wonder. Arthur absorbed this, a feeling of deep contentment washing over him. The explanation was so perfectly suited to Little Wisp, so full of gentle, whimsical charm. It was not a puzzle to be solved, but a story to be enjoyed. The cafe itself was the artist. He looked around the room at the dark wood beams and the worn floorboards, and he could almost feel the gentle, happy spirit Beatrice spoke of. It was in the warmth from the hearth, the soft light from the windows, and the comforting aroma of baking. He learned more about the village through these quiet conversations. The grandfather clock in the library, he was told, hummed instead of chimed, a sound that helped readers concentrate. The postbox down the lane always made the letter smell faintly of the lilac bush it sat beneath. These were not strange occurrences to be investigated. They were the cherished eccentricities that made Little Wisp what it was. They were the threads of gentle magic woven into the fabric of daily life, accepted and beloved by all who lived there. This shared understanding brought Arthur a profound sense of peace. He was not an outsider looking in on a mystery. He was a welcome guest, invited to share in the village's gentle secrets. He felt the last vestiges of his old world's hurry and worry fall away, replaced by the slow, steady rhythm of Little Wisp. His days were no longer about getting through, but about simply being present for the taste of a warm cinnamon bun, the sound of rain on the roof, and the sight of teacups arranged in a pattern of pure, simple joy. He began to see this gentle spirit everywhere, in the way the ivy climbed the old walls in swirling, artful patterns, in the way the wind seemed to whisper a soft tune as it moved through the branches of the ancient willow tree in the village square. The entire village was a living, breathing entity of peace and comfort. The teacups were simply its most direct and charming way of communicating that peace to all who entered the cafe. Arthur felt deeply grateful to be here, a quiet observer in a world that ran on kindness and gentle wonder. Chapter 4. The Serenity of the Morning Arrangement. On his final morning in Little Wisp, Arthur felt a gentle melancholy mixed with a deep and abiding peace. He knew he would carry the tranquility of this place with him wherever he went next. He decided to visit the cafe earlier than usual, hoping to catch the very first light of day spilling into the quiet room. He walked through the pre-dawn mist, the cobblestones damp and shining under the single gas lamp that still burned on the corner. The world was hushed, holding its breath for the arrival of the sun. When he reached the cafe, he found the door unlocked. Beatrice was inside, moving silently in the dim light, the soft glow from the oven casting a warm halo around her. She smiled when she saw him. "I thought you might come early today," she whispered, her voice a gentle part of the morning's quiet. She motioned for him to take his usual seat, and he sank into the familiar comfort of the armchair. She brought him a steaming mug of tea, and they sat together in a comfortable, companionable silence, waiting for the day to begin. Arthur's gaze went to the shelf. In the dim light, he could see the teacups were still in their neat, orderly line from the previous night's closing. The daily wonder had not yet occurred. He felt a quiet thrill, the gentle excitement of a child waiting for a magical show to begin. He and Beatrice sat without speaking, simply watching the shelf as the light outside slowly shifted from deep indigo to a soft, rosy pink. The first rays of sun finally streamed through the window, striking the wall just below the teacup shelf. As the sunlight touched a particular spot on the old wooden floor, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the building. A soft shiffle and a delicate clink came from the shelf. Arthur watched, holding his breath, as one of the teacups tilted, then gently slid a few inches to the left. Another followed, and then another, moved by a force so gentle it was almost invisible. A very faint draft, rising from a single warped floorboard, heated by the morning sun, was nudging the delicate porcelain into a new configuration. The movement was slow, serene, and utterly magical to behold. Over the course of several minutes, the entire collection shifted. The cups chimed softly as they touched, their movement dictated by the subtle currents of air and their own unique shapes and weights. When the last cup had settled, a new pattern had emerged. It was the image of a smiling sun, its rays stretching out joyfully, created from the colorful array of painted porcelain. The resolution was so simple, so natural, a charming quirk of an old building, breathing with the changing temperature of the day. It was the cafe's own gentle way of waking up. Arthur let out a slow breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. He looked at Beatrice, and she was smiling, a look of pure, simple contentment on her face. "The cafe always greets the sun," she said softly. The mystery was solved, not with investigation or intellect, but with quiet patience and observation. And the solution was more beautiful and more fitting than anything he could have imagined. There was no hidden hand, only the gentle, happy spirit of the place itself, working in harmony with the morning light. He sat for a long while after, sipping his tea and gazing at the smiling sun on the shelf. He felt a sense of complete and total peace. The world of Little Wisp, with its humming clocks and scented letters and self-arranging teacups, made perfect sense. It was a world that operated on a logic of gentleness, kindness, and quiet wonder. The puzzle had not been a problem to fix, but an invitation to slow down, to watch, to listen, and to appreciate the small, serene magic of the everyday. When he finally stood to leave, he felt fully restored. The journey he had sought had been completed not by traveling to a destination, but by arriving in a state of mind. He thanked Beatrice, the gratitude in his heart too large for words, but she seemed to understand completely. As he stepped out into the now bright morning, the whole village seemed to be smiling with the teacup sun. He carried the image with him, a symbol of the lasting, profound peace he had found in the warmth of the Cobblestone Cafe.